So why did you upgrade from Mail Shop to Midnight?
Well, we'd added our third location, and we wanted to be able to manage multiple locations. As you know, you helped us spearhead how we were going to manage multiple locations through that. So we started by just managing our west location through Midnight. It was a little easier for us since it was a smaller location to onboard it before we brought it on to the main location.
How long have you been using Mail Shop and Midnight?
We started Mail Shop in 2011.
Okay.
Yeah. I had to look back at that. I didn't believe it's been that long.
and when did you transition to Midnight?
I would say probably 2017.
Okay. So about 6 years with Mail Shop then.
Yeah.
Were there any hurdles upgrading from Mail Shop to Midnight?
I wouldn't say hurdles. We learned a lot when you guys, when Mail Shop, did the integration, and we had a champion, and the champion kind of helped with all the concerns. And so we did the same thing with that integration. We had somebody, a key point person that would, that helped with any of the things. I think, probably the biggest hurdle, and it wasn't as big of a hurdle as I thought it was going to be, was working in between the two systems for a short period of time. And that was really just to look at some archived data that we didn't bring into the new system, because I know we brought in, I think, the previous year, but there were certain years that we didn't. So that was, that was it.
So you brought in a set of orders, maybe a year's worth of orders then from Midnight?
Yeah. So we had to work on, I think, there was a process of making sure that all of the data that was in Mail Shop, like if it had any kind of punctuation or anything like that, I think we stripped all of the names with all that information before we exported the file to bring it in, because I think that was probably one of the working points that we had to work through.
How would you describe the learning curve for you and your staff for the migration to working with Midnight as opposed to Mail Shop?
Yeah, I feel like probably 6 months into it, the account managers were pretty much all in on the Midnight thing. It definitely helped that we upgraded our internet access to fiber. We are doing a lot of transactions daily, obviously. So, you have all the pool tickets, all the job tickets, all the invoicing, the work orders, everything going through here. And, on any given day, it could be 400 transactions, between everything. So it's quite a bit. So definitely helpful. But the account managers, because they had a point person, we had pretty good buy-in from them. And I think your users, that's the most important thing. You got to make sure they're going and really give them all the resources that they need to make it work.
How would you compare the performance between the two programs?
So at first slow, but man, now I don't even remember what the other one was like. The performance is really good. It's not, that was we didn't want to be a guinea pig, and that was our hesitation was, is working on Midnight going to be slower than working on Print Shop was, and it wasn't. It was, now today we're operating just as fast and doing as many transactions as we've ever done. So
you haven't really noticed too much of a drop off, at least in when making that transition, or at first was there a bit of that, and then there was some improvement in terms of your bandwidth? Or
yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. Yeah, and that really just depends on your number of transactions that you're doing. The bandwidth in the beginning was important for us, but it's not an issue right now. I guess another concern would be, well, what if our internet goes down? What do we do with And, you know, I think anybody that's on a platform like this has probably got some pretty good backup plans in place, and we do, and it's a non-issue. I mean, since we've been on it, I want to say we've had maybe 2 days total, 2 days that have been just a couple hours each day where we've been down for whatever reason, you know, no fault of midnight, but whatever we had going on with our internet services.
When you think of the benefits, what is the biggest benefit you see since switching?
Yeah, so I thought about that a lot. For my benefit, it's the transparency. The transparency and the accountability. I look at reports. My managers look at the report functionality all the time. You know, for managing salespeople and all the different reports that you can pull up and you know, go over with salespeople to the operations reports, the production schedule. Managing multiple locations is key. You know, the sales reports that I can pull from each location on a weekly basis or a daily basis if I feel the need. So really accountability and transparency, two very big factors.
Is there a big improvement in terms of the visibility you get with the entire set of your operations in midnight compared to mail shop?
Yeah, like you mean just as far as jobs on the floor?
Yeah, it could be jobs on the floor or what's going on in inventory.
We are leaning on, and I know that we did, you know, job costing and things like that, but the job costing, you know, that we use now that we're in midnight is to the nth degree. We really do, you know, at the end of it, closing out a job, we really do understand exactly where we're at on that job and the flags that we can make ourselves to know if that job comes in once a year, you know, this is where we're at, you know, and we can set a reminder to make sure that we right size that job next time it comes in and all that. So, yeah.
Great. Now, how do you use midnight? You know, when you think of how the way you use it, how would you describe that?
Every step of the process, you know, the way I explain this to the customers when they come in and they take a tour, you know, every job starts with an estimate. Every estimate must capture as much of that information, and we know that that's going to change, you know, inevitably, you know, certain ones will, but we want to capture as much of that information as we can up front, so that when the account manager receives that estimate as a job and turns it into a work order, that there's minimal, you know, changes that they have to make, that they really have a good understanding. And then, you know, taking it from a work order, and we use the sign-offs on the work orders every step of the way, and I like to show that to our customers. You know, there's a spot for a quality control check. So we have quality control people that are going through and signing off on every line item of that work order. We're also taking pictures and appending them to the system. And that could be first and last if it's a small job, or that could be, you know, every so many pieces if it's a larger run job. And then we have the ability to take seeds that we put on the job. And so we seed everything that we do, right, when it's a direct mail job, and we mail that back to us. So then we have the ability to append that to the system too. So if a customer were to call and say, boy, delivery's not really good, and maybe the customer didn't want tracking or we didn't do tracking for whatever reason, we can pull up the picture of that received piece that we have, and that's good. And then of course, turning that into the invoice. So, you know, it really, the software is just one conduit for every step of the process, from getting the job, from estimating the job to invoicing the job and sending it out. And then of course there's the follow-up emails that we can use the system for to send to customers when a job is mailed. So, and we have some customers that, and not a lot, I remind the salespeople of this all the time, that they have the ability to give customer access to a portal that shows all of their transaction information and all that. And we probably only have a handful of customers on there, but I like that. And I'll tell you, every time I meet with a customer, I show them they have that. They like the thought of it. You know, they really, you know, they think that's great. It does help you when you're selling jobs, having that level of transparency with the customer.
Nowadays with people working all over, do you find that you find most of your employees are still working from the office, or is there a mix of working from home as well?
Yeah, so when it was definitely helpful during COVID, in the beginning months of COVID, we were very cautious with who came into the office, who worked in production, who could work from home. And we had an alternating schedule. So it was really nice having the account managers have the access to log in, and, we would have one set account manager here that, if an account manager is at home, they write up a work order, they could send it to the printer here. And then the account manager that's here could actually put the sample board together, get the work order together, and then put it out into production. So that was helpful. And obviously, all my salespeople could work from home because, they really just needed to, send emails, or, they could log in the system and see everything they needed to.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's a number of people who work on the weekend as well on it, or after hours.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
Well, just a final question here. What would you say to others who are on the fence about switching from mail shop?
I get it. We had the same hesitations. We had, what if we don't get the buy-in from everybody? So what do we do to make sure that we get the buy-in from everybody? Bandwidth, like we talked about, are we going to be slower since it's not on our server, and it's, and it's out there. And all of those big questions that we had prior to making the switch, they really were minute once we actually got going and implemented the software and started using it. And the benefits definitely outweighed the onboarding process and maybe what some might consider challenges with it.